This road sign means A. Drive with caution and be ready to slow down. B. Do not drive in this lane. C. You must come to a complete stop and yield the right of way. D. Slow down, be prepared to stop, and, if necessary, yield the right of way. D. Slow down, be prepared to stop, and, if necessary, yield the right of way. This type of triangular sign means drivers must yield. You must slow down as you come to an intersection marked with this sign and be prepared to stop. Let any other vehicles, bicyclists, or pedestrians pass safely before you proceed. When driving in rain, you must A. Use low beam headlights. B. Use high beam headlights. C. Use parking lights. D. Use no lights. A. Use low beam headlights. In rainy conditions, you should use your low beam headlights. What does an orange-colored sign indicate? A. The start of a no-passing zone. B. A railroad crossing is ahead. C. A school zone is ahead. D. The presence of construction work. D. The presence of construction work. Construction, maintenance, and emergency operations signs are generally orange with black symbols. You are waiting in the intersection to complete a left turn. You should A. Signal and keep your wheels turned to the left. B. Signal and keep your wheels straight. C. Flash your headlights so drivers will let you through. D. Drive around the rear of a car if it blocks you. B. Signal and keep your wheels straight. You must always signal before turning or changing lanes. You should keep your wheels straight while waiting to make a left turn. If another vehicle hits you from behind, this ensures that you will not be pushed into oncoming traffic.
Want to ace your DMV test? Click on the link below and get your guaranteed cheat sheet.
Railroad crossings should always be considered A. Safe to cross, as it is unlikely that a train will be coming. B. Dangerous. C. Safe locations to park a car. D. A place where it is required to stop. B. Dangerous. Railroad crossings are always dangerous. Drivers should always look and listen for trains approaching from either direction on all railroad tracks. Always follow the directions indicated by signs, signals, and flaggers. Never proceed past a railroad crossing until you are certain it is safe to do so. If you are stopped by a police officer, you should A. Unbuckle your seat belt and lower your window. B. Get your paperwork ready before the officer reaches your car. C. Stay in your vehicle with your hands on the steering wheel and wait for the officer to approach you. D. Get out of your car and walk toward the patrol car. C. Stay in your vehicle with your hands on the steering wheel and wait for the officer to approach you. If you are stopped by the police, keep your hands on the wheel and ask any passengers to keep their hands in view as well. You should remain in the vehicle unless the police officer asks you to get out. Wait until the officer asks you to retrieve your driver license, registration, and insurance cards. When you need to change lanes, it is important to A. Signal your intentions ahead of the lane change. B. Check your blind spot. C. Make sure the lane is clear before entering. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Always signal for an appropriate amount of time before making a lane change or exiting a freeway. Before you make any move to the right or left, quickly turn your head and look over your shoulder to see if your blind spot is clear. This green arrow on a lane use control signal means A. You may use this lane. B. No traffic is allowed in this lane. C. You have the right of way. D. You must merge into this lane. A. You may use this lane. A steady downward green arrow over a traffic lane means you may use the lane indicated. This sign means that A. A community service group is picking up trash along the highway ahead. B. Workers are on or very close to the road in the work zone ahead. C. Children are at play ahead. D. There is a pedestrian crosswalk ahead. B. Workers are on or very close to the road in the work zone ahead. This sign indicates that workers may be on or very close to the roadway ahead, so you should take special care when traveling through the area. This road sign means A. All traffic must turn right. B. No right turn. C. All traffic must go straight ahead. D. A road joins from the right. D. A road joins from the right. This sign indicates that there is an intersection ahead. A road joins from the right. When approaching a flashing red traffic light, drivers should A. Drive through the intersection if there is no crossing traffic. B. Continue driving, as they have the right of way. C. Stop if a police officer is nearby. D. Treat the light like a stop sign. D. Treat the light like a stop sign. Flashing red lights are used at dangerous intersections. Treat them like stop signs. Traffic signals sometimes display arrows to control turns from specific lanes. A solid yellow arrow A is never used as a traffic signal. B has the same meaning as a circular yellow traffic light. C means that drivers may turn in the direction indicated by the arrow. D tells drivers that a green arrow is about to be shown. B has the same meaning as a circular yellow traffic light. A solid yellow arrow has the same meaning as a yellow traffic light. When approaching a solid yellow arrow, you must reduce your speed and prepare for a red light. At a school crossing sign, you should A. Always stop, whether there's a stop sign or not. B. Watch for children and be ready to stop. C. Always sound your horn when you see children. D. Be ready to help children crossing the street. B. Watch for children and be ready to stop. You must always yield to pedestrians who are in or about to enter a crosswalk. Be alert to pedestrians when driving across intersections or turning. When turning left, drivers must yield the right of way to A. Other drivers who are already in the intersection. B. Oncoming traffic. C. Pedestrians who are already in the intersection. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. When turning left, drivers must yield the right of way to oncoming traffic. Drivers must also always yield the right of way to pedestrians, bicyclists, and other drivers who are already in the intersection. This sign means A. Divided highway ahead. B. Playground warning. C. Merging traffic. D. One way. A. Divided highway ahead. Warning signs prepare drivers for upcoming road conditions and hazards and are usually yellow with black markings. This sign tells drivers that the road will soon become a divided highway. When parking your vehicle downhill on a two-way street. A. Turn your wheels to the right. B. Turn your wheels to the left. C. Keep your wheels pointed straight ahead. D. Leave your transmission in neutral. A. Turn your wheels to the right. When you park on a downward-facing slope, turn your wheels sharply toward the side of the road. This way, if your vehicle starts to roll downhill, it will roll away from traffic. This sign means A. All traffic must turn. B. Turn right at the intersection. C. Parking area ahead. D. Crossroad ahead. Watch for traffic. D. Crossroad ahead. Watch for traffic. This sign warns of the presence of a crossroad ahead. If a driver sees an animal on the roadway. A. No special action is required. B. The driver should honk their horn. C. The driver should pass the animal as closely as possible. D. The driver should be very cautious. D. The driver should be very cautious. Be very cautious anytime you encounter an animal on the roadway. Pass the animal slowly to avoid startling or frightening it. To check your blind spot before changing lanes. A. Look into the left side mirror. B. Look into the right side mirror. C. Look into the rearview mirror. D. Look over your shoulder in the direction you plan to move. D. Look over your shoulder in the direction you plan to move. To check your blind spot before changing lanes, you should look over your shoulder in the direction that you plan to move. Signs indicating areas of public recreation are A. Orange. B. Red. C. Green. D. Brown. D. Brown. Signs that are brown indicate areas of cultural and historical significance or of public recreation. They can be a helpful resource when traveling in unfamiliar locations. A solid white line on the right edge of the highway slants in to the left. That shows that A. There is an intersection just ahead. B. You are approaching a construction area. C. You will be required to turn left just ahead. D. The road will get narrower. If your turn signals fail, you should use fill in the blank to indicate that you are turning. A. Your horn. B. Your headlights. C. Hand signals. D. Your emergency flashers. C. Hand signals. If your vehicle's turn signals do not work, you should use hand signals to indicate when you intend to change direction. If you drink alcohol socially, what helps ensure safe driving? A. Drink coffee before driving. B. Ride home with a friend who has not been drinking. C. Take a cold shower before driving. D. Stop drinking 1/2 hour before driving. B. Ride home with a friend who has not been drinking. One strategy to avoid driving while impaired or intoxicated is to arrange for a ride home with a friend who does not drink. Drinking coffee or taking a cold shower cannot reduce your blood alcohol content or reduce the effects of alcohol. On average, it takes about an hour for the body to eliminate the alcohol from a single drink. When you see this black and yellow sign, it means A. The road to the right is for one-way traffic only. B. That due to upcoming roadwork, there is a detour to the right. C. Slow down because the road ahead changes direction at an extreme angle. D. There is a crossroad to your right. Alcohol causes A. Loss of concentration. B. Poor coordination. C. Slower judgment. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Consuming even a small amount of alcohol will impair your vision, judgment, concentration, and coordination. This sign means A. Detour. B. Low shoulder. C. Fire station. D. Narrow bridge. A. Detour. Construction zones pose dangers to both drivers and construction workers. Orange highway construction signs warn drivers to be careful when encountering construction zones. This sign directs drivers toward a detour when roadwork changes normal driving routes. You must yield for emergency vehicles? A. Under no circumstances. B. When you see a flashing red or blue light or hear a siren. C. Only when other vehicles yield. D. None of the above. B. When you see a flashing red or blue light or hear a siren. You must yield the right of way to any emergency vehicle that is using its siren or flashing lights. A speed restriction sign. A. May be ignored in rainy, snowy, or icy conditions. B. Has a triangular shape. C. Is blue with black lettering. D. Shows a recommended speed for a curve or turn. D. Shows a recommended speed for a curve or turn. Curve and turn warning signs often have attached advisory speed signs that show a recommended driving speed for drivers in the curves and turns. Although a driver may feel comfortable driving at a higher speed in fair weather, they should never do so under rainy, snowy, or icy conditions. What is a no zone? A. A designated no passing zone. B. A one-way traffic area. C. The blind spot of a large vehicle. D. An area designated for motor vehicles. C. The blind spot of a large vehicle. No zones are the large blind spots around trucks and other large vehicles. Drivers of smaller vehicles should avoid lingering in no zones. This road sign means A. Steep grade ahead. B. Pedestrian crossing ahead. C. Low ground railroad crossing. D. Low clearance. D. Low clearance. This sign indicates that the overpass ahead has a low clearance. You should not proceed if your vehicle is taller than the height shown on the sign, in this case, 13 feet 6 inches. Your brake lights tell other drivers that you A. Are making a turn. B. Have your emergency brake on. C. Are changing lanes. D. Are slowing down or stopping. D. Are slowing down or stopping. Your vehicle's brake lights indicate to other drivers that you are slowing down or stopping. Your brake lights should always be in working order when you are driving on any roadway. This sign means A. Railroad crossing. B. One-way traffic. C. Limited parking. D. Playground ahead. A. Railroad crossing. Circular traffic signs indicate upcoming railroad crossings. This sign tells drivers that they are approaching a railroad crossing and should be looking for signs of an oncoming train. On the freeway, you see a merging traffic sign. You should A. Honk at incoming traffic. B. Always remain at your present speed. C. Speed up to avoid congesting traffic. D. Move to another lane, if safe, to let traffic enter. D. Move to another lane, if safe, to let traffic enter. When on a roadway with 2 or more lanes, you should make room for entering vehicles. If there is no one driving next to you, move over one lane. Before turning, you should A. Use your signal. B. Turn the wheel. C. Increase your speed. D. Change lanes. A. Use your signal. To complete a turn safely, you should activate your turn signal 3 to 4 seconds before your turn. This sign means A. Flagger ahead. B. Do not block intersection. C. Side road. D. Right lane closed. A. Flagger ahead. Construction zones pose dangers to both drivers and construction workers. Orange highway construction signs warn drivers to be careful when encountering construction zones. This sign tells drivers that a flagger is ahead and will be giving directions that should be followed. A speed limit is A. The maximum or minimum legal speed you can travel on a road under dangerous conditions. B. The maximum or minimum legal speed you can travel on a road under ideal conditions. C. The suggested speed to travel on a road under ideal conditions. D. None of the above. B. The maximum or minimum legal speed you can travel on a road under ideal conditions. A speed limit is the maximum or minimum legal speed you can travel on a road under ideal conditions. You may drive more slowly than the posted speed, but it is illegal to drive any faster. You must drive more slowly where signs or signs indicate a school zone or work zone speed limit. If conditions such as road construction or bad weather make the posted speed unsafe, drive under the speed limit. A solid yellow line on your side of the center line means A. Slow down. B. Pass with caution. C. Do not pass. D. Keep right on hills. C. Do not pass. A solid yellow line next to your lane means that passing is not permitted from your direction. When changing lanes on a highway, you should A. Signal a lane change. B. Check your rearview and outside mirrors. C. Check your blind spot by glancing over your shoulder. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Anytime you want to change lanes, you should properly signal your intentions well in advance, check your mirrors, and check your blind spot. You can check your blind spot by glancing over your shoulder in the direction that you plan to move. A "no stopping" sign means that, unless directed to do so by a police officer, you may stop only A. Long enough to unload packages. B. To avoid conflict with other traffic. C. To discharge passengers. D. for less than 5 minutes. B. To avoid conflict with other traffic. A "no stopping" sign means you can only stop to obey a traffic signal, to obey a police officer, or to prevent a conflict with another vehicle. When changing lanes, you can check your blind spots by A. Using the inside rearview mirror. B. Using the outside rearview mirror. C. Using both inside and outside rearview mirrors. D. Turning your head and looking over your shoulder. D. Turning your head and looking over your shoulder. You should turn your head to check your blind spots before every lane change. Double solid yellow lines painted down the middle of the road mean A. Railroad crossing ahead. B. Pedestrian crossing ahead. C. Passing is not permitted from either direction. D. Passing is permitted from either direction. C. Passing is not permitted from either direction. Double solid yellow lines in the center of the road mean that passing is not allowed from either direction. You may not cross the lines unless you are making a left turn or passing pedestrians, bicyclists, and riders of scooters or skateboards when the opposite lane is clear and you can pass safely. When entering a highway from an entrance ramp, you should generally A. Enter above the speed of traffic to get ahead. B. Enter slowly to avoid other vehicles. C. Stop first, then slowly enter traffic. D. Accelerate to the speed of traffic. D. Accelerate to the speed of traffic. Entrance ramps for highways often have acceleration lanes. When merging with traffic from an acceleration lane, you should put your signal on, look for an opening in traffic, accelerate up to the speed of traffic, and merge into an opening in traffic. This sign means A. Roadwork ahead. B. Playground ahead. C. Fire station. D. Stop. A. Roadwork ahead. Construction zones pose dangers to both drivers and construction workers. Orange highway construction signs warn drivers to be careful when encountering construction zones. This sign alerts drivers to the beginning of an upcoming construction zone. What should you do if your accelerator sticks while you are driving? A. Reach down and attempt to pull it up. B. Shift to park. C. Shift to neutral and apply steady pressure on the brake. D. Turn the engine off. C. Shift to neutral and apply steady pressure on the brake. If your accelerator sticks while you are driving, keep your eyes on the road. Quickly shift the vehicle into neutral and apply steady pressure on the brake pedal. Pull off the road when it is safe to do so and turn off the engine. When driving on slick roads, you should A. Take turns more slowly than usual. B. Change lanes quickly. C. Accelerate quickly. D. Brake hard. A. Take turns more slowly than usual. While it is always dangerous to drive too fast on slippery roads, this is especially true when driving in turns and curves. Be sure to approach them more slowly in slippery conditions than you would under normal circumstances. This sign means A. The highway ahead curves only to the right. B. The highway ahead turns sharply to the right. C. The highway ahead curves to the right and then to the left. D. The highway ahead curves to the left and then to the right. C. The highway ahead curves to the right and then to the left. Warning signs are used to warn drivers about upcoming hazardous conditions and are usually yellow with black markings. This sign warns drivers that the road ahead curves to the right and then to the left. When turning or changing lanes, you must A. Always signal your intentions, even when no visible traffic is present. B. Signal only if there is visible traffic. C. Signal only when driving at night. D. Signal only when driving in heavy traffic at night. A. Always signal your intentions, even when no visible traffic is present. Always signal your intentions when changing lanes, turning, or pulling away from a curb. Do not allow yourself to become lazy and form the bad habit of not following this law. What is the appropriate action to take when approaching a railroad crossing that does not have signals to direct traffic? A. Always bring the car to a complete stop. B. Slow down and be prepared to stop. C. All railroad crossings have signals, so you will never encounter this situation. D. Increase your speed to get across the tracks quickly. B. Slow down and be prepared to stop. When approaching an unmarked railroad crossing, slow down and be prepared to stop. Before you cross, be sure that no trains are approaching from either direction on any track. If you see or hear a train coming, stop at a safe distance from the nearest track and wait to proceed until after the train passes. When driving on an interstate. A. Stop on the shoulder of the road if you are tired. B. You should always use cruise control. C. Signal, check mirrors, and check blind spots before changing lanes. D. You should change lanes often. C. Signal, check mirrors, and check blind spots before changing lanes. Signal, check your mirrors, and check your blind spot before changing lanes or passing on an interstate. Only stop on the shoulder of the interstate in the case of an emergency and change lanes as infrequently as possible. Cruise control should not be used in heavy traffic or under poor weather conditions. If a green arrow turns into a solid green light, you A. May still turn, but you must yield to oncoming traffic. B. May no longer turn and must proceed straight. C. Still have the right of way to turn. D. No longer have to turn in the direction that the arrow indicated. A. May still turn, but you must yield to oncoming traffic. If a green arrow turns into a solid green light, you may still turn in the direction that the arrow was pointing, but you must first yield to pedestrians and oncoming traffic.